In this video, we will take a look at using terminology from within SDL Trados Studio. So in the other multi-term videos, you have seen how to create a term base, how to add terms, how to use multi-term in a rich way to work with terminology. And now we would like to take a look at Studio and how you can use terminology best inside this environment. So first of all, obviously you can work with term bases during translation, and in this particular example I already have opened a document and I'm already also using terminology. So just to recap, you have the project term base dialog box that you can use, where you can add multiple term bases, can remove them. You have search settings that you can use where you can fine-tune how terminology should be used. So let's take a look at this step by step. In this case, for example, I've got the recognized term photo printer in my source language and photodrucker as the target language. And just to show you a few features here, so if you wanted to take a look at known translations, maybe if you go to this particular segment here, number 5, you can see two known terms then in this case. And if you wanted to see them both at once, you can click the Show Translations button. That then basically gives you a list of known terms directly at your fingertips. You can also press Ctrl-Shift-L, which does the same thing. So this then helps you to quickly add the terms to your target. They are also added when you type F, then photodrucker is offered to me. So I've got lots of different ways to get the terminology into my target segment. So that is one area of interesting functionality. Then what you can do at any point in time, especially maybe after completing a translation, if you want to add new terms to your term base, then you can quickly go through a translated document and add them one by one if you wanted to. So in this case, for example, I could double click on location and Aufstellungsort. I could then simply say add new term, which then adds the term to my term base here with the term base viewer. Maybe a few tips around the term base viewer. You can first of all click this arrow button to disable the auto hide functionality, which means while you are working with terminology in a more intense way, you can have this window permanently visible for you. So in this case here, for example, I have location and Aufstellungsort, which has already been added. If I wanted to say I have another term here which I would like to add, then I could say Standort, maybe as a synonym. So that is very easy to do. I could then say what is the status of this particular term. It is a preferred maybe to Aufstellungsort, or maybe it's just an approved term and Aufstellungsort is preferred. Then I could go back here and say this one is preferred. And so add lots of rich information to my term base according to how I set it up at the beginning, which we saw in another video. So all the fields that you have in your term base are available here also in Studio. I can click Save. And then you can see that now two synonyms are available for my translation if I wanted to. So that is just one rich way of quickly working with terminology. If I wanted to continue the same exercise, I could maybe go down here a little bit and say power outlet and Stromversorgung should be added. So let's just do it a second time. Just quickly select the source, select the target, say add new term, and then it gets added right away here. I can save. And then it's right away recognized as a known term. So that is quite nice and very easy then to quickly enrich your term base with terminology while you work. Another nice feature is that you have actually a mini term base search within Studio itself. So rather than having to go over to multi-term, you can also do normal terminology search in here. So for example, I could take a look at all the terms starting with photo. Then I get these entries being shown here, or show me all the terms ending in printer. Then all these terms get shown to me. So I have got a nice way of being able to quickly access terminology in a lightweight way by using this particular feature. Another nice feature is that you can customize the display of this information here. So let's assume I go back to my previously added term here where I said Aufstellungsort and Standort as being synonyms for location. If I wanted to see, what is the approved term, what is a preferred term also in here and not only in here. So when I select this here, of course, I can always look it up and I can then see the information here. But it might be very handy sometimes, especially if this window here is not visible, to see this information also in a very compact way here in the terminology recognition window. So if I wanted to do that, what I can do is click the hit list settings here. and then I'm able to select what fields should be shown in addition to the source and target terms, which I can already see. So that is the Select Fields button here, which I can select here. And here then I can say, okay, in the target language, show me the status, for example, of the terms. So I can click OK and OK here. And now you can see that preferred and approved are shown next to the term, so that I can then, based on that particular additional information, decide what is the best term that I should use in my target. And then maybe just to finish off, I would like to show you a very interesting Open Exchange app that was created before. So if I go back to my welcome view here, I have already installed it. You can find it on the Open Exchange, which you can go to here, and it's called the Glossary Converter. This is a very handy tool to very quickly convert Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, for example, into multi-term term bases quite fast. So let's do this quickly. I click on Glossary Converter. This starts a very small app, and I can now simply drag and drop the term base onto this window to start the conversion process. And let's assume I've got an Excel spreadsheet that I would like to convert. For this, I move over to this particular Windows Explorer window here. Let's quickly have a look at this terminology within Microsoft Excel. So this is now the terminology list that I can see here within Microsoft Excel, and this terminology should now be converted into multi-term format very quickly. So you might have similar files that you have from your customers where they put the different terms just as very simple term equivalents into different fields, maybe with some metadata as well. So I'm exiting Excel. So I'm now ready to start the conversion process with this Excel spreadsheet. So all I need to do is drag and drop it from my Windows Explorer window onto the Glossary Converter app. You can see that I also activated the option Always Show Field Selection dialog, because this then allows me to specify which entry structure I would like to use in multi-term. And the tool was pretty clever here. It already was able to associate all the languages to language fields, and also that the source and subject columns should be entry fields. In those cases where it doesn't recognize your particular spreadsheet, you can then define whether the entry-level information like subject or source in this case should be at the top level of the entry, or whether it should be below the terms. You can basically freely decide where to put which data. And then when you click OK, the term base gets created. And you can see that actually in the background here, now the term base is available here. And now that the terminology has been created, why don't we use it in our sample document that we were translating and just add it as a secondary term base? And for that I could go back to the editor here. And now that I'm back in the editor, you can see that I still have my previous term base being used, but I could now go to the term base settings button and simply add the term base that I just created with the Glossary Converter app. So I'm already in the right folder here. I confirm everything, say OK. And then you can see that the term tools and utilities is now recognized from this second term base. You can also see that's actually not quite correct what was converted there, so you will find that as well, that when you convert your term bases this way that you will spot errors. But it's very easy to fix those errors. You basically simply say, show me this particular term here, open it here in edit mode, and let me say here in this case Werkzeuge und Hilfsmittel, save it again, go back, and then what you can see is that the term has been updated, and now if I wanted to add this to my translation I would do it in this way. And so you can see that it's very easy then to convert term bases with the Glossary app in this way and add it to your project at any point in time to have as much terminology as possible during your particular translations. Finally then, just a brief look at the settings that you have. So when you click the project term base settings button like I just did, you have access to the search settings here, where you can nicely define your search parameters. So you can have lots of different options. If you want to recognize two-letter terms, you can enable this. You can also show the recognized terms with no available translation, so show all these terms where there's a source term only but not a target term. This can be useful to then enter those target terms during translation as you go through. You have a search depth value, which can be quite interesting when you have large term bases. Then you might want to increase this value. Term repetition threshold is interesting. When you have lots of repetitions of terms, then multi-term stops recognizing these depending on the context, and then you can basically move this slider up to get those terms recognized as well. And then you have a nice search order options here where you can say how the term-based results should be grouped. And that's basically it for this video. Thanks a lot for your attention, and enjoy using multi-term together with Studio in this way. Thank you. Bye bye.